Hello and welcome. Today we're going to talk about cellular trauma, how overwhelming life events can be stored in our body cells, influencing our health and potentially contributing to disease. Lately, we've seen a lot of shift in how people think about health. There's a lot more focus on the mind-body connection and how emotion can shape physical well-being. We'll explore what actually happens inside the cell when we're under stress or experiencing trauma. We're joined by Dr. Aimie Apigian, a double board certified physician in preventive medicine and addiction medicine, specializing in trauma, attachment, and cellular level healing. Her work has been recognized by many medical experts, and her book, The Biology of Trauma, is a multi-award winning USA bestseller that has significantly influenced the conversation around trauma and physiology. Dr. Aimie is also the host of the Biology of Trauma podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, which has reached over 120,000 downloads and built a community of more than 55,000 followers. Thanks for joining us, Dr. Aimie. Shall we start with our first question?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. I like it. What happens at a cellular level when we are under stress or after, let's say, a traumatic event?
When we are under a stress, this is going to be a danger, but it's going to be an escapable danger. And escapable is that key word, meaning there is still something that I can do about it. And so we have terminology like fight and flight, these action-based responses, because it's escapable and I'm going to do my best to escape or overcome a danger. And so the moment that a stress becomes a trauma for our body is the moment that it becomes an inescapable danger. And if it becomes inescapable, there's nothing I can do. And if there's nothing I can do, well, then why should I even try? All of my cells are upregulating their production of energy to help me escape. And if it's now an inescapable danger, my cells are powering down. They're conserving energy. They're hibernating because now is not the time to fight. Now's the time to hide. And so that's really the main difference, even at the cellular level. Are my cells fighting to survive, or are they hiding?
When is that moment that we actually say, okay, this is like, I can't do this, and we give up? Let's say we're hiding.
If we have a danger, but we feel like we have the capacity to respond, we're going to be in a stress mode because it matches the size of the danger. I can have the energy to run. I can have the energy to fight. I have the capacity to respond. That's not just biological capacity, that's also emotional capacity. It's part of our learned programming and even my beliefs about myself. Am I the kind of person who can do hard things? And at the cellular level, that capacity is very critical at determining what am I able to do. And oftentimes what's happening is that the demands on us, the responsibilities, the things we have to take care of, the pressures that other people put on us or we put on ourselves, they feel like a danger. And sometimes it feels like our capacity just is not enough. Our nervous system says the better survival strategy is to hide and hibernate than to fight or overcome.
So what actually happens then inside the cell when we decide to hide?
It is so fascinating to see how a cell responds in real time to what we need. When we are under a stress, then our body will respond by changing the shape of our mitochondria so that it can make energy more efficiently for us. But if we want to hide, if hiding would be the better strategy, we don't want to make energy more efficiently. We actually want to downregulate. And so we see mitochondria and the walls of our cells breaking down so that we are not going to be producing as much energy and increasing our metabolism. We call this the cell danger response. Under a microscope, you can see the changes happening between a cell when it feels safe and secure and just doing its job versus when it's under stress and it is hunkering down to make more energy for us, or if it's falling apart in order to hide and hibernate for us.
In your podcast, actually, you said that trauma is an energy problem. How does that trauma then, affects our energy, and how this is connected to the chronic fatigue?
Trauma is an energy problem because healing takes energy. If we don't have the energy, we may get stuck holding that response and not completing it all the way through. Same thing if we have held it for years or decades, and it may now have become a disease process, health symptoms, conditions, maybe like chronic fatigue or maybe like autoimmunity. Now, our own biology has been in a state of depletion. Why? Because inflammation drains our energy. Toxins drain our energy. The tissue damage of chronic fatigue syndrome or fibromyalgia, that drains our energy. It also then starts to create nutrient deficiencies, and we don't have enough B6, zinc, magnesium, or a long list of other nutrients and vitamins.
We hear a lot about cortisol level and, vagus nerve, the polyvagal theory by Dr. Porges. So how this old speech connects to, the hormones level, the chemical in the cell?
The polyvagal theory says that as long as we have a sense of capacity, we will respond. And it's that nervous system perception, so that we're not responding to reality, we're responding to our perception of reality. So I like to think of neuroception as this dashboard, like the dashboard on my car. And it tells me the level of gas in my tank. It tells me the engine temperature. It tells me the oil level in the engine. All of this information to tell me, is it safe to drive my car right now? And that's the same thing that happens in our nervous system. It's collecting all of this information. Our beliefs about what we can do, our somatic memories of what I have been able to do, and then our biology influences what we're actually able to do based on how much energy we have to do that. I separate the layers of healing by mind, body, and biology. So I separate body and biology by saying that the body is that somatic layer, and it will respond to anything in our environment based on that somatosensory level. But then there's this biology level. And the biology can refer to the toxins, it can refer to the inflammation, it can refer to the gut imbalances, the hormone imbalances. All of this biology is going to be creating my capacity because it determines how fast can I run, how high can I climb, how long can I fight, and that will determine if I can overcome a stress or if I'm going to be going into the trauma response.
We heard a lot of time this word mind-body connection. What do you think of it, and what do you think is like applied to your approach and for the healthcare system?
What I love about it is that it really does connect a system that is already connected anyway. And somehow we thought that we could just deal with the mind and it didn't involve the body, or that we could just work with the body and it didn't involve the mind. I see it as one single system, one single unit. That is what I teach people, is not just how to connect with your body, but then how to communicate, how to listen to its messages, how to know what it's saying, and be able to enter into that back and forth conversation that will allow us to navigate our life very differently than if we are just connecting but not conversing.
How do you define your approach, and why is that different from other medical approach?
There's two categories of the medical professionals in today's world at this time. One category is the category that still is not even talking about trauma. Trauma is not even on their radar, and they probably don't want to involve it because they don't know what to do about it. Then you have this other group of medical professionals who are very interested in it, and so they have become trauma informed. I don't need to go to the past to see how much stored trauma is impacting you today. That is a very different approach than what most people, most medical professionals are doing, where they're thinking that by being trauma informed, they are looking to the past and what has happened to a person rather than looking at the patterns that would still be showing up in their life today. Giving them the skills to create a felt sense of safety in their body in this moment. My job was to teach them how to do this for themselves. And then they would go home, and throughout the week, they would be doing this exercise whenever they started to feel anxious, whenever they started to feel overwhelmed. They would just shift their own state to feeling safer.
Do you reckon we will reach a point where we will be capable of healing ourselves without the need of actual drugs?
I do think that the body, if given the right conditions, can do that healing by itself. Now, by itself, does that mean all alone? No, because healing does involve a returning to a community, to a tribe that loves you, that cares for you. I see that across society, we have come to start to depend on so many things external to ourselves: devices, drugs, medications, people, places. We've come to depend so much on things outside of ourselves that we have forgotten how to actually help our own body navigate, process, and resolve a past experience.
It's a lovely theory, but at the moment there's a lot of, you mentioned the division between mainstream kind of medical side and other people that are actually looking at the mind-body connection.
When we look at it as something that we need to do for the mind and our beliefs about ourselves, something that we need to do for those somatic implicit memories, something that we need to do for our biology, we see that if I work on one, it actually opens up the others, and I have more access to that. For example, isn't that interesting that the more inflammation I have, the less I'm able to work on my people pleasing and perfectionism? And yet it's also the two-way street, because if I work on my people pleasing and perfectionism, I have less inflammation.
A lot of people talk about inflammation, personal trainer, food therapy.
It is very interesting. And what we see is that when we are in a stress response, our inflammation is decreased. We get less sick when we are stressed. And we can think back on when we were in school and had exam week. It wasn't during exam week that we got sick. It was when we went on vacation after exam week. And we had that let down. And that was when our system was like, oh, well, then let me make you sick now. And so the inflammation really is coming from a body that says, I am so overwhelmed. And when we think about where perfectionism comes from, it came from a childhood where you formed the belief, for whatever reason, that if you were just better, if you could just do things perfectly, then you would be okay. The family would be okay. Your parent would be happy. And if your parent is happy, then you're okay. And so it's this fear that I'm not enough. And that fear, when triggered, even in adulthood, still creates that overwhelm response. And that's how it shows up with inflammation.
If I am more focused on performing, I will have less level of inflammation. And then once I finish performing, I will raise my level of inflammation. Is that correct?
If we are in a stress response and we feel like I've got it, it's hard, but I can do this, then you will have less inflammation. But when you get to the end of that, and either because your performance is over or because you've pushed yourself so hard, your body has just collapsed and given in, that is when the inflammation shows up. Because what we know about science is that stress plus rest equals growth. And for those of us who have perfectionistic tendencies, it can be very hard for us to rest. We tend to want to stay in productivity mode. I need to accomplish more. And so we tend to push ourselves all the way until our body has to say, that is enough. And how it often tells us that in adulthood is with diseases and inflammation. And that is why I get so excited about this, because I have seen the change at the cellular level. I think of so many people as they are starting this work, they even don't know all of their coping strategies. They don't know that they're actually emotionally eating quite a bit. They don't know that they're using drama and picking fights with their partner in order to just have the energy to get through their day. They have no idea about these things, either overreacting or underreacting.
How do you determine the difference between a cell that's been traumatized and a cell that is actually healing?
I am more interested in being able to measure these chronic impacts like oxidative damage. And over time, over decades, that oxidative damage will damage our DNA. We can actually measure that. It can affect the efficiency of our mitochondria. We can measure the efficiency of our mitochondria. It will cause us to accumulate more toxins rather than being able to detoxify and let them go. We can measure those toxins. We can take a blood test and really see what is holding me back, what is hijacking my healing.
Thinking about Alzheimer or Parkinson or other brain degeneration disease, even cancer, do you reckon there is a cause that is related to trauma at a cellular level?
The research shows the relationship between cancer and how stressful your childhood was. Research has shown the connection between cancer and loneliness, the relationship between the degenerative brain diseases, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, and these chronic toxins and the chronic beliefs that we hold about ourselves, the isolation.
It looks very good. And I just want to know why it's not been adopted yet from the mainstream healthcare system.
Oh, now you're asking me to say something spicy. There are always many reasons why we can have a new understanding in science and it not reach the people. One of those reasons is that we've created models, and it's very hard to change an existing model. And so this is why I had to leave conventional medicine.
This event is traumatic, it's too much for me. What should be the first response so we can avoid the aftermath of it?
There's no wrong thing to do. It's not bad to have a trauma response. It's not bad to go into this place where for a period of time you want to hide and hibernate and you feel hopeless and depressed. It's also then, how do we come out of that? And I will just let my body have the collapse, the letdown, the exhaustion that it wants to have. And the more I can give it that, the faster it comes out. The more I fight it, the more likely it is to just be one more thing that I hold on to, my body holds on to it, and it will make me sick later on.
So we shouldn't avoid trauma. We can
Don't
allow the
avoid.
trauma. Okay.
Allow.
Okay.
But for so many of us, we have come to believe that to be okay, we have to control. The people in our life are controlling our own body. We often so try to control things rather than allow things. And yet this is not what we have been taught. We have not been taught how to make our body feel safe, be safe. And so of course we've gotten stuck. But that doesn't mean that there's not hope.
Thank you so much, Dr. Aimie Apigian.
Thank you. It's good to be here.